gather here today to celebrate the life of an incredible streak. 9-3 over the course
So true.
of 5 days, and lost tragically in the early hours of May 14th.
Yeah.
Today, we mourn the Heater.
Yes. Yes, we do. And kind of the death of the KB over. Really got slammed, the old KB over. And appropriately, the lights go out where you are.
I can't afford my electrical bill anymore.
The production value we have is truly incredible. I think that was actually well played. Yeah, what can you say? What can you say? You got it was a heat check, and like so many heat checks, this one it failed you. This is
the last dollar I have to my name, Andre.
Please help.
Just hold it tight. So in the end, you know what? I felt really good, and I felt as if I could move mountains, and I thought I could control the outcomes, and I went away from the two bets I was most confident in. LG Twins and Deuce Bears over. If I go there, it's a 50-50. The Heater's probably still alive. That's a 10 and 4 in the last 14. That's a Heater. That we're still kicking. But I got cocky, started playing the dinos. I don't even like the dinos. I got a little out of my element, and it's just it's a tough day for me. 1-3 in my 4 picks on the KBO. Still 10-4. I mean, in the last whatever, but still you can't call it a Heater when you're 1 for your last 4. So it was a good run. Some say I was a little too cocky during the Heater and may have jinxed it, but I honestly can't imagine why anyone would say that. I think I was humble. I stayed true to my guns. I was completely within myself all along. I can't imagine why anyone would say I was cocky.
That final part seems inaccurate. I just, as a math magician, and I see producer Ali has already despaired that I'm banging my mic 2 seconds into the show, which is great. That is actually my greatest math magic trick, is making her life as hard as possible. But no, I really think, though, you're correct. Your cockiness did not have an impact in this. This is purely random. This is just what happens when you bet the KBO giveth and the KBO taketh away, but mostly the KBO has giveth. So I'm not even going to complain. Just moments ago, the KBO giveth, the greatest gift of all to me, as we were preparing for the show. I told you we're doing the records because, of course, I couldn't do that ahead of time, because my goal and my math magic trick is to make life hard on producer Ali. I, though, did find out that instead of an 0-3 day, what happened
Hold on.
Okay.
Real quick. I'm like, Andre, what's your record? He's like, I've fallen to 17-20. I was like, you went 0-3 last night? He's like, yeah, I did. I'm like, hold on. Weren't you on Doosan and Lotte? He's like, yeah, I had the over, of course. That's the best over combination in the league. And I was like, they covered, bro. They scored 11. He's like, no, dude, the score was 5-4. So we both whip out our phones, pull it out, and there it is.
Amazingly.
7-4.
Yeah. Amazingly, my kid got me up so early that I didn't realize it wasn't a final score. I actually missed out on following that and watching them cover and not ruin my day completely. But I must say, I am so disappointed on myself. The math analytics side of my brain is saying this is fine. I'm actually better coming off a loss because it's more probability wise that you're going to bounce back. But really, I'm just the non-logical side of me is kicking myself for what I do. I switched up the hats and stuff after going 7-6 on the weekend. 7-6, and we're switching things up. Never, ever. You got to stick to what you're doing. That's why I've gone back to what was working for me before. Dad hat, DNVR spell out. And now I really think, the randomness of the KBO, we're going to get back. And also, I'm not messing around. We're looking at actual stats instead of just betting overs on the same teams over and over again.
Fair enough. Fair enough. As you can see, for the first time in show history, I am not wearing any eyewear at all. I'm trying to go back to my roots, and build my way up, back to the days before we even had a betting show, when I wasn't wearing eyewear 24/7.
Right.
So just breaking it down to the ground level, and we're going to build our way up. And get back to eyewear and all that good stuff. So here are the records as it stands. It looks like you look like a basketball season over here. 18, like the 2018-2019 season.
Yeah. Yep, I sure do. I look like a Nuggets team that the Professor Dre Miller was sneakily the best player on. Yeah.
And I look like the start to a Rockies season right before they fall apart.
Or like a Rocky 3 kind of hit a rough patch in his career. He started off 14-3, won the belt, then had some, high level fights, and now he's 14-10, and he's got to kickstart his career again.
Okay, I'm really excited about what we have on the slate today. Because we're getting back to some Broncos talk, getting back to some prop bets here, getting back to the good old DNVR specials that are exclusively available at DraftKings Sportsbook. These are our bets that we came up with ourselves. We threw them out to them, said, hey, we'd love to see the competition between Phillip, Lindsay, and Melvin Gordon and how that's going to go. They come back to us shortly thereafter and say, hey, here is what we have on the odds between Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. And Allie's going to roll this here. Here is how you can go and get in on these. Go to NFL. You go over to player totals. You go all the way over to Broncos specials, a.k.a. DNVR specials. And there you have it. All of the competitions that we've come up with so far. And as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to talk about Phillip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. And Andre, I'm a favorite guy at heart. I'm all for fade the public, all that good stuff in certain scenarios. But I like betting on my favorite pick is when the line's not high enough. I feel like that's my best way of identifying things is so-and-so is 6.5 point favorites, and I'm like, that team is going to win by a touchdown or whatever it is. I feel like that's what my eye goes towards the most, and I think I probably have a pretty good record when I'm very confident in a favorite. But, man, I've become an underdog guy so far on this show because in this Phillip Lindsay, Melvin Gordon competition, I like the hometown kid, and I didn't even plan that I would be wearing this Phillip Lindsay.
I just realized you did it. You really didn't plan that?
I did not. This is the shirt I wore today. And it comes down to a few things, but let's go prop by prop. And there's actually one that I don't love filling. So We'll start here with most rushing attempts.
Yeah.
And man, I could talk myself into this one too. We've got the graphic here. It's Phillip Lindsay versus Melvin Gordon, of course. Phillip Lindsay is plus 183. Melvin Gordon minus 230. Most rushing attempts. Now, I think there's a very important distinction here, Andre.
Yeah.
That it's not most touches.
Yes.
Because Melvin Gordon most likely is going to have more catches this season. Everyone wants to put Phillip Lindsay in that third down, scat back, Darren Sproles type of role. It's really not who he is. It's the shape. He's the shape of a guy like that, but that's not necessarily who he is. And I think and I know one of the reasons that the Broncos brought in Melvin Gordon is because a Pat Shurmur offense loves to throw the ball to the running back. Phillip Lindsay, while I believe he can be a good receiving back, he was in college.
Yes.
He hasn't proven that out in the NFL yet. maybe because Case Keenum almost got him killed one time, and it might have just messed him up. Thanks a lot, Kareem Jackson. But Melvin Gordon's going to catch a lot of passes. And that makes me
that's interesting.
Twitch a little bit here, because I was going to tell you that this is the one I'm least confident in from a Phillip Lindsay perspective. And the numbers would bear itself out there too. Phillip Lindsay is the largest underdog in this particular competition. This one is close to a toss-up for me just because of what I mentioned earlier. And I have a personal rule that's going to apply itself here 3 different times. Never bet against Phillip Lindsay. People that bet against Phillip Lindsay they lose all the time, whether we're talking about in life or on the books. If Phillip Lindsay loves when people bet against him. I'm not going to be the one to fuel that fire here. This is the one I'm least confident in, just because I think the Broncos are going to force feed Melvin Gordon a little bit at the beginning of the season, and he could get a decent lead here. I've been watching Phillip Lindsay for, my God, 8 years now, going back to his early days in college when he came into CU and redshirted and all that good stuff. I know one thing: when he gets out there on that field and you start handing him the ball, it starts to become really hard to stop handing him the ball, because he gives you a lot of reasons to keep wanting to give it to him.
Well, that's the interesting thing, because over the course of their careers on a per game or per touch basis, Phil has clearly been the most productive back of the two, Gordon and Phil here, which I think is, an interesting subplot in all this. And as always, national perception does play a part in this. You're talking about a Heisman finalist, a guy who broke records in college and was a first-round pick in Melvin Gordon, a guy who gets drafted in first rounds of fantasy leagues every year. He's definitely the bigger name, and we can't underestimate how much that plays into this. But the attempts here is really interesting also because Gordon has the added injury factor, right? Not that I'm putting that on him, but of the two backs, the one who's been less durable is without a doubt Melvin Gordon. And, you want to make a safe bet. Phil has that safety net to him that so far in his career, he's only missed one game, while Melvin's touch wood, absolutely. While Melvin's missed significant time at different points. Why do you think they'll force feed him, though? And can you even share this? Because you have some unique insights, and I almost wonder how much you're allowed to say at this point.
I think I could say whatever I want. So the Broncos paid Melvin Gordon a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're going to want to make that contract look like it's worth it. That's number one. That's the most highly criticized move of the entire offseason, maybe other than not drafting a left tackle, which is not even really a move. It's a lack of a move,
right?
Has been the contract for Melvin Gordon. And so first and foremost, I think they're going to try to make Melvin Gordon the starting running back. I think that's their plan. In their eyes, they see Melvin Gordon as running back one. And to be honest, we got a little insight from Phillip Lindsay when he was on Instagram Live with Terrell Davis not too long ago the other day, when he said, look, I don't need 20 touches. Give me 5, 8, 10 touches a game, and I'm going to break one for a touchdown. I thought that was very telling. That sounds like a guy who is coming to grips with what he has been told may be his role this season. So that's why I very strongly believe, among other reasons, that the Broncos are going to feed the ball to Melvin Gordon and try to prove that he is the running back one going into this season. But like I said, and you mentioned durability, that's huge. Also, Melvin Gordon is not a bell cow. Get that out of your head, Broncos or anyone else. Melvin Gordon is not a bell cow back. He is not a between the tackles, rough him up and go type of back. And if the Broncos use him in that way, I will say they paid him too much money. So whether they want him to be or not, that's not who Melvin Gordon is. And the truth is, whether they want him to be or not, that is who Phillip Lindsay is. He can be a guy who runs between the tackles all day and has success. And so I think that slowly but surely, the Broncos are going to start realizing, man, the best thing for the team is to give Phil those running back carries and give Melvin Gordon those sweeps, those screens, those game breaker style plays.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and yet why haven't the Broncos fully embraced Phil the last 2 years? Because he's already been in kind of running backs by committee and not getting the majority of the touches despite being the more productive guy. Obviously, new offensive coordinator, so it's a completely new ballgame. But I mean, that's another interesting part, and you covering the team, I'm sure, have some takes on that as well.
Yeah, and I'm going to actually flip-flop here. I like this one. Because I'm not saying I'm extremely confident that Phil is going to end up, because I don't know how long the Broncos are going to be able to stick with that strategy. Heck, best case scenario is Melvin Gordon kills it in that role.
Yeah.
And they can use Phil in the more game breaker type role, which he can be great at as well. But the odds here, as we've kind of talked about a few times here, we see it a lot closer than they see it. So to me, the value on this one very clearly falls on Phillip Lindsay. And again, the more durable of the two players. So that's where I fall on this one.
Final stat. Over the span of their careers, Melvin Gordon, 15.7 attempts per game. Phillip Lindsay, 13.4. So to your point that Melvin Gordon hasn't been a bell cow over the span of his career, in 5 seasons as kind of the guy for the Chargers, only 15 rushing attempts per game. So not that much. And I think
the Broncos might be looking at those guys and saying, let's get 28 touches a game between these two players.
Yep, exactly.
And we'll see how those end up shaking out. Okay, this next one is actually the one I'm least confident in, and it is Phillip Lindsay touchdowns versus Melvin Gordon touchdowns. Yeah. Phillip Lindsay's plus 163, Melvin Gordon minus 200. Here is the place where Melvin Gordon has the most distinct advantage and has the clear stats to back him up. Melvin Gordon is one of the best red zone backs in the NFL, and I think that's the best quality that he is bringing to the Denver Broncos. When he gets in there, he has a nose for the end zone, he can smell blood in the water, and he finishes drives, and that's something the Broncos have struggled with for 4 years now, is finishing drives, and I think that might be the biggest reason why Melvin Gordon is in orange and blue this year. That guy finishes drives in the red zone. He's a good pick here.
Comes down to a lot of what we were talking about with Judy versus Sutton on the touchdowns. It's really going to come off to who can break off some big plays. That plays a much bigger factor for Phil than it will for Gordon, because Gordon's going to get fed the ball in the red zone. Though over the course of their careers, on a per game basis, Phil has scored 0.52 touchdowns per game. Melvin Gordon, 0.54. So we're right there as well. Right. Despite fewer touches in the red zone from Phil as well. So it really tells you, at minus 200, Gordon is not great value, even though he's definitely the favorite.
Yeah.
We agree on that.
Yeah, he's the favorite here. And this one also, you should note that this is most touchdowns, not most rushing touchdowns. And as I go back to what I just quickly jumping back to the last prop.
Yeah.
I said 28 touches between those two guys. Maybe that's a shade high. You could maybe go down a little bit there. But I think 5 of Melvin Gordon's every game at least are going to be catches. So that means if he's getting 15, if he's getting 14 touches per game, well, what if 9 of those are rushes and 10 of Phil? Then Phil gets 10 carries in that game. Just something to keep in mind there as we're talking about that. Okay, back to touchdowns. Melvin Gordon, do you have the stat in front of you by any chance of just how prolific he is in the red zone?
I don't have red zone rushing, no.
Okay, I can maybe look that up here as you talk about what kind of makes him a good red zone back.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's a threat in both the passing game and rushing game. He's physical. He's got good burst. Those are those situations where sometimes Gordon can get himself in trouble when he bounces, runs outside. But I actually think it kind of plays to his advantage as a red zone back because teams are respecting that downhill speed. They're respecting that size on inside runs. So when he can pop one outside, lanes open up. He's also, he's benefited a lot from designated touches, and he's a guy who's really taken advantage of those one-on-ones in space, especially in the red area, because as you said, I mean, I do think it's accurate that he feels it a bit more when he can smell those 6 points, and that's why you see him maybe be even extra efficient in winning those one-on-ones down in the red zone.
Yeah, exactly. He kind of has a nose for it, and he's really good on sweeps and outside runs, and those can be really effective down in the red zone. Teams are kind of loading up on the inside, thinking you're going to run inside, and he has a really great eye for when to cut up field when he gets the ball outside the numbers and gets some blockers. He has really good vision as things kind of start to open up out there. So he's really benefited from the actual plays they call for him down in the red zone and what they were calling for him out in San Diego. Hopefully the Broncos and Pat Shurmur have taken a lot of notes on that, because you see the little fake fullback dive pitch out that they do. Like I said, a lot of sweeps, a lot of, outside counters. So he really does a good job of making moves to generate extra yards down there. And like I said, when he gets out there and you've got, members of the secondary and he's within a few yards of the end zone, he'll find the goal line.
Yeah, and he finishes runs too, That's kind of a key down in the red zone as well. All right, well, final verdicts here, RK. Are you still looking for this stat?
I am still looking for this stat, and I can't find it. It's killing me. But I'll tell you this, he's one of the most prolific red zone backs in the NFL. That's what I can tell you for sure. I'm going against my own rule here because I think this is what Melvin Gordon brings to the Broncos. So I definitely think that the Broncos are going to try to make this a reality, give him lots of touches in the red zone, and I'm going Melvin Gordon here.
Yeah, I guess so too. I won't exactly be putting money on this, but if gun to my head, I would go Melvin Gordon. I agree.
All right, there you go. All right, moving on to our very last one here, and probably the most fun of the group, most yards. And I'm just going to double check here as we talk about this. This is most yards from scrimmage.
Yes, most yards from scrimmage. Yep.
That's an important distinction here. Not most rushing yards, most yards from scrimmage. Phillip Lindsay versus Melvin Gordon. Now this one, Andre, I'm going to let you start because the numbers like the underdog here.
Yeah, they do. And what's interesting is Phil on a per game basis in his career has rushed for 66 yards, while Gordon has only rushed for 63 yards. So slight advantage for Phil despite fewer touches on a per game basis. But when you look at yards from scrimmage, Melvin Gordon has actually averaged 91 yards from scrimmage per game over his career, while Phil is at 80. So those receiving yards and the fact that this isn't rushing yards does make it particularly interesting and give it a little bit more of a toss-up, even though I do like Phil best here, A, because of the durability, and B, because, if we're going to be splitting this kind of even, I think Phil's shown that on a per-game basis, despite limited touches, he can really make the most of it. He's also... I don't know. Maybe it's not fair to say he's the greater home run threat, but in some ways I see, I see a little more upside to create a bit more yards than expected. But, the value is nice at 144. It's not as high as the last few. And that tells you that DraftKings here think we might be onto something with Phil.
Yeah. How many 1,000-yard rushing seasons does Melvin Gordon have?
Just one.
So one. So in 2 years, Phillip Lindsay already has more 1,000-yard rushing seasons than Melvin Gordon does. Again, the reason why Melvin Gordon the favorite here is because of that receiving ability. He most certainly expects to get a lot of receiving touches, and that's going to be tough for Phillip Lindsay to keep up with. It like if we mentioned, Phil might end up getting more carries in this contest, but it's going to be tough for him to keep up with the passing attempts if Melvin Gordon is getting 5 catches a game, so let's say he rushes for 60, but he caught for 30 on 5 catches. Well, that's, 90 yards, and Phil's most likely going to have to make up for that mostly in the rushing game.
Now, you say he expects to be receiving lots of passes. Do you get that feeling from the coaching staff too?
Oh, yeah.
Or do you think that's just a bluff, or you actually think?
No, I mean, Pat Shurmur loves throwing the ball to running backs. Phillip Lindsay has struggled receiving the ball in the NFL.
Yeah, sure.
There is a very obvious reason why Melvin Gordon is a Pat Shurmur signing. Make no mistake about it. So he wanted a guy like Melvin Gordon that he could throw the ball to out of the backfield. It makes life so easy on quarterbacks when you can just throw that little swing route out there and have a guy make some moves.
Yeah, I just wonder if maybe it's a little overblown that he loves to pass to running back since he had such a unique running back in Saquon. And also, I wonder if Gordon's stats were overblown because he did kind of have a veteran, not super mobile quarterback who does like to just check down to the running backs and was kind of force feeding some throws there. It wasn't necessarily that he was super dynamic. So just something to consider if you're wanting to go with that minus 177 with Gordon.
So I found an interesting stat on Melvin Gordon here that does kind of play to what we were talking about. And this comes in from our friend of the program, James Palmer. Melvin Gordon versus stacked boxes since 2018, which obviously you get a lot of stacked boxes in the red zone. 4.8 yards per carry.
Wow.
That's second in all of the NFL. 11 touchdowns against stacked boxes. That's second on all of the NFL.
Wow.
And 10-yard or more runs on 16.9% of his carries against stacked boxes. That too, second in the NFL since 2018.
That's incredible. Yeah. I mean, he's better against stacked boxes than he is against light boxes.
And I think that's because the coaching staff out there in San Diego or Los Angeles did a really good job of identifying those stacked boxes and getting him outside of them.
Yeah, I think you're onto something, right? Where you still, at worst it's a 2-on-1, but you're in space.
Right, exactly. I think that was kind of their strategy. Again, Melvin Gordon, he looks like a between the tackles guy. He is an outside runner.
He really is.
And Phillip Lindsay looks like an outside runner. He's really good between the tackles.
He's amazing between the tackles.
Fearless between the tackles as well. So that's what makes this interesting. I think there's a lot of eye test stuff going on here. You are talking about, like you mentioned, a former Heisman candidate, all of this stuff. There's a lot of stuff going towards Melvin Gordon. And if I'm being completely honest, I think right now, if Pat Shurmur was on this show, he would pick Melvin Gordon and all these props. But the longer you spend around Phillip Lindsay, the more you see Phillip Lindsay on the practice field, the more you see Phillip Lindsay on game day when he gets that look in his eyes. I've seen it from feet away. He gets a look in his eyes on game day when he pops a 10-yard run and runs over a corner on the sideline as he goes out of bounds. He gets this look in his eyes, and I just know when Pat Shurmur sees that, he's going to say, all right, keep him out there. Keep giving him the ball. And he starts walking back to the huddle with this little strut, and he goes in the zone. And I think you're absolutely nuts if you're an offensive coordinator and you see him get in that zone and you take him off the field. If he hits it, give him the ball. And I think Pat Shurmur is going to learn that quickly when he actually sees these guys out there on the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even if he's not getting the most touches, he's still going to get a lot of touches. I don't really think they have a reliable third running back. I really think it's going to be bulk of the carries, these two guys. So, yeah, it's these are exciting wagers, and I really like the value of Phil in all three bets. And this one may be the most.
Yeah, it's funny. As we opened up this conversation, I've actually flip-flopped my order of which ones I like the best. I like this one second for most yards to Phillip Lindsay. I like most rushing attempts the most, which
That's crazy.
that's the one with the highest payout for Phillip Lindsay backers. And then touchdowns is the one that I probably just wouldn't touch.
Pun intended or something.
Yes, sure. Yeah, fine.
Cool.
All right, let's move on to our picks of the night. Of course, thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for presenting this show, DNVR Bets Daily, which I haven't even said yet because I was so broken up about my heater perishing in the wee hours of the morning. So it's time to get back in. All you can do when you fall off the horse is get right back up there and ride again. Quickly, Producer Allie, if you could bring up our records.
Why?
I just want to look at
why
them.
you gotta do that
I really
for
like
your
this
boy
graphic.
again?
Look at this, so well done.
Ryan.
Shout out to D-Line for making this beautiful graphic. Actually, this might have been Kale. I don't know. D-Line, it was his brainchild. Okay, let's get into the KBO bets. Producer Allie, you can put Andre out of his misery. All right, there you go.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to let you start. You sounded like you might have had a little something in the bag tonight.
I mean, I don't know about something in the bag. I can tell you I'm not taking any nights off from KB overs. When the KB over slams you down, it's just because there's another batch right around the corner. I would venture to say that was the lowest scoring night in the KBO that we've had thus far this season. And it's not going to happen again in these 3 games. And they are not our usual 3 games because you know what? If we're going to start messing around and everything, then I might as well at least look at the starting pitcher ERAs here. And the Dinos and SK Wyverns are bringing out 2 guys who are rocking a 6+ ERA. Give me the over all day on that. Then we got Doosan against the Tigers. We get an 11 ERA against an 8 ERA.
Oh my God.
We know that Doosan's amazing. Of course, small sample size on these ERAs, but they've been killed already. You know, it's tough going out there for pitchers in the KBO, so it's tough to bounce back. And finally,
as we learned in the UFC, the more you get hit, you don't, slowly get better, you get worse.
Unfortunately for some of my picks, yes, that's so true. And finally, Heroes against Twins. We have a 4.50 ERA for the Heroes against a 6.75 for the Twins. Give me the over.
Andre, I truly can't believe what's happening right now.
No, Ryan, what's happening?
We're matched up. We didn't talk about this.
What?
We didn't talk about this before.
Oh, man.
Didn't have anything else. I was thinking of, maybe getting cute and going with the total here, the team totals here, because you've got my, you know what? Scratch that.
Oh, no.
I'm just going to change it up a little bit because I don't really trust the Heroes. I don't know who they are. I don't know what they're all about. I do trust my Twins. And you can get Twins over 4.5 at -114. So I'm going to take that. And then the other 2, I'll ride with you straight up. Doosan and Tigers, Dinos and Wyverns, over and over. And by the way, it should be noted, Doosan and Kia, the highest over we've seen so far in the KBO.
Let's go.
That's an over 11.
Yeah, that's the game with the 11 ERA against the 8.75 ERA. So, yeah, I mean, I think that's a proper adjustment.
My guess is that we cover this Doosan and Kia by the 3rd inning.
Wow. Is there a live bet we can place on that? That's worth setting an alarm at 3, maybe 4:15 for?
Seeing first to score and win, first to 3 runs. Let's see. Run lines. First 3 innings. No. Oh, can we get an over-under on the first 3 innings? Oh, we can. Can get an over-under on the first 3 innings. Total runs scored in the first 3 innings. Over-under 3.5.
Wow. No way.
Yeah.
Oh, Ryan. I'm adding that to my tally as well.
You sure?
Yes.
Okay. I don't want to be talking you into.
No, that's too
anything
good to be
not.
true. And now we get the real insights by Chris
K. Hill.
Chris K. Hill. Yeah, I need my glasses at this time, and all 3 lines have gone up since midday when I got on all of them. So there you go. That's
this one.
Happened.
They've been paying a lot of attention to the overs and unders, and obviously they're seeing a lot of action on the KB over just coming in from people who listen to this show.
Of course.
But I wonder, a lot of the action has been in the later innings because the starters are okay and the bullpens are trash. I just wonder if they're kind of set on these over under 3.5 in the first 3 innings, and we might have found a little lapse here with these 2 poor starting pitchers on the mound.
We shall see.
So you got 4 on the card there.
4. That feels so much better than 3. We really got to be. We'll be at 22 by tomorrow.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. I'm the one who said it, so I'll add it to my card as well.
Oh, I assumed you were adding it to your card.
Yeah. So there you go. That is darn good value. Unfortunately, there's no alternate line about how you could get to 11 in the first 3 innings like I predicted. But there you go. Over under 3.5 in that one. Twins over 4.5. And then, of course, the over 11 Doosan Kia and over 9 Dinos Wyverns. Dinos, a 1-0 win last night? What's going on with them?
Unreal.
That should be illegal in the KBO.
Truly disgusted with them, frankly.
Yeah. I would consider banishing them from the league.
Samesies.
By the way, we stayed away from the run line, which is obviously always -1.5 in almost every contest. We've been smart. A lot of 1-run games in this league.
It's like amazingly entertaining. It's really fun stuff, the KBO.
Gosh, we got to stop doing this show so late. We need to reset our schedule so that we wake up at 3:30.
Yeah, I guess. I'm game. I'm game, I suppose.
You're like, well, my daughter wakes me up at that hour every day anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
What time did you wake up when the Doosan game was still alive this morning?
I was up at 6:30, but I actually looked at my phone at like anywhere between 7:15 and 8:15. I can't tell you exactly.
You know what's funny is I woke up and I didn't have the urge to look at my phone. I think telepathically I knew that the heater was dead.
That's a shame.
I even rolled back over. I'm like, I'm not gonna look. I'm like, I'll look later. And then I sat there on that side of the pillow thinking something's wrong. I gotta look.
There is something about the pressure of having won,
Right.
I think it's a little more freeing, a little more competitive edge when you're trying to bounce back.
I opened up the scores. The first one I saw was like 1-4 Kia and Hanwha. Then I saw 1-0 and I was like, wow. Dear God, what happened? Was there weather? Was there dust in the air that was blowing in their eyes? I was shook.
That was terrible.
Anyways, only way to start a new heater is to get right back up on the horse, and that's what we're doing tonight. So go overs. And RIP to the heater. But when one door closes, another one opens, Andre.
So true. So
that is going to wrap it up for us tonight. But before we go, I want to let you know to download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use code DNVR when you sign up. For a limited time, all new users can get a sign-up bonus up to $1,000. That's right, sign-up bonus up to $1,000. Don't forget to enter the code DNVR and get your sign-up bonus. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Bonus comprised of a first deposit bonus and a first bet match, each up to $500. Deposit bonus requires a 25-time playthrough. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. And of course, as we always remind you, if you have a gambling problem, make sure you call 1-800-522-4700. There is someone who can help you get this thing in line. But anyways, it's going to wrap it up for us tonight. Shout out to DraftKings Sportsbook, and shout out to you, Professor Dre, the math magician. We love you.